Hi everyone. Today we're going to focus on part 1 of the 30 essential yoga poses. These poses range from downward dog to bridge to Savasana. We'll start with the essential 10 poses for beginners. So get yourself ready with your yoga mat, a block, and a blanket. So we'll begin in mountain pose, Tadasana. Stand with your feet hip width apart and your toes pointed forward. Make sure that your feet are parallel. This takes a little bit of practice, but notice that you're not pigeon-toed or one toe or foot turned out to the side. Both feet flat on the floor, comfortable through your heels and toes. Arms hang beside your body, and we'll work from the base or the feet up. In this position, with your eyes closed, begin to recognize how your feet support you through the arches, the toes, the heels, and feel the floor, feel the mat below you. We'll take a slow breath here. Continue to follow the breath. Slow, easy breath in and a slow, longer breath out. Bring your attention now to the arches of your feet, and that you feel a slight arch starting in the base of the feet, through the arches, around the ankles, moving upward towards the knees, noticing that you haven't locked your knees back, that your knees are soft and there's a firming in the thighs. You feel this position giving you some stability in your feet, in your legs. Continue the breath and notice now your pelvis, and that your pelvis hasn't tipped forward or has it tucked back. It's neutral. So noticing the pelvis, noticing the legs, noticing the tailbone. Feels heavy. This lower part of our body, from our hips to our feet, creates that foundation for our lower back, our rib cage, our shoulders and neck, and our head. As you continue to take each breath, notice a lift of the torso, up away from the pelvis, away from the floor. The eyes are closed still. The breath is still smooth. Your full attention is on the standing pose of Tadasana, mountain pose. Allow your breath to continue to be smooth. In and out breath through the nose, relaxing your shoulders. Allow the chest to feel opened and slightly lifted without arching the back. The tops of your shoulders are smooth and long from your ears. Your chin is level with the floor, and your mouth and your jaw and your tongue are relaxed. The crown of the head, imagine the crown of the head lifting away from the tailbone, and the tailbone connecting and relating to your feet, to the earth, to a sense of grounding. Continue to notice your breath, the sensations in your body, and investigate and play around with how your body feels, how the energy is with each breath, moving in, moving out, through the nose. Our next pose is chair pose. Stand facing forward with your feet hip width apart. So this might be about 6 inches between the inner lines of your feet. Lifting your arms up, out in front of you. And then as if you're about to sit into a chair, you slowly bend to the knees, drop your hips, and find some weight moving through your heels. So find the weight of your body anchoring or plugging into the floor from your heels, and then divide that same idea of weight from your body through your toes. With your arms straight up from your shoulders, looking straight ahead, and notice that perhaps the back has it rounded. So you want to make sure your chin is parallel to the floor. Your feet are plugged into the ground. The back of the body feels very tall and long. So think of a stick or a broomstick attached to the back line of your body, from the back of the head all the way towards the sacrum. This will keep an alignment in your torso. Now, don't feel that you have to drop down too far into this pose. It only becomes more intense for your knees. But find a height or an angle that feels good. Try not to lean too far forward, but sit back into your feet. The arms, relaxing the shoulders, and maybe taking your arms up a little bit higher, just to create a nice long stretch through the sides of your shoulders, the underarms, and the outer shoulders. This pose, as you notice, is intense, creates a lot of heat. So make sure that you're breathing through your nose, you're relaxing through your shoulders, your face, your mouth. And when you feel ready, you exhale, release your arms. Inhale to stand tall, and come back into mountain pose, Tadasana, with your eyes closed for a few more breaths. Okay, moving on to our third pose, puppy pose. You need a chair for this position. So with a chair at the end of your mat, facing the seat of your chair, and you're about 2.5 feet away from the front edge of the seat. This is so you can reach for the chair and still get that length in your back body. So standing comfortably with your feet hip width apart. Hip width apart might be distance between 2 fists or 1 fist, depending on your torso size and leg length. Also, about hip width apart also means that you're still comfortable in your lower back and sacrum and around the lower part of your torso. You're not feeling that there's stress there. So start at this position, find that chair, reach for it, hands on either side of it, or on the front of the seat, the front cushion of the seat, so that you're comfortable in your wrists. So don't grip the chair with your hands. Let your hands rest into the chair so there's no tension built in the wrists. Moving your feet back and allowing your hips to sink away from your shoulders with a little bit of length taken into the lower back. Your head always aligned with your arms, chin slightly tucked in, and you might find that you want to bring a little bit of a strengthening into the arms. So without gripping the chair, feeling that strength in your outer arms, the length in your back from the crown to the tail, and also noticing that you're not locking your knees. Bending your knees to begin would be a great place to start, and then extending the hamstrings or the back of the legs as you continue with each breath. Make sure that your head hasn't fallen down through your arms, nor has your head lifted to look at your chair. Let it be a neutral, even, long position. As you're practicing this position, hold it for 30 seconds to a minute, for as long as it feels comfortable for both your arms, your neck, and your legs. And then when ready to come out of it, lean forward, step 1 foot forward, come down onto the opposite knee, and rest in child's pose. Okay, going on to our fourth pose, downward facing dog. Downward dog gives you a mild inversion with your head below your heart and your hips up. It also has a very nice calming effect on the body and the nervous system. So downward dog, if you're learning it for the first time or revisiting what it really is, don't spend too much time in downward dog if it creates tension or issue with your wrists or your hands. If you feel bunched up in your neck and shoulders, bring yourself right out of it. So those of you that follow me will know some of the cues that I will give you. But I want to stay more so into the structure of the pose and the alignment of the pose. I'll give you a few things to follow. So come around onto all fours, into a tabletop position, spread open your fingers, press down into the heels of your hands, press into your fingertips just to understand the idea of weight coming through your wrists and your hands and your fingers. From this position, notice the alignment of your shoulder over your wrist. What you're going to do here is lift the heel of your hand up and bring it towards the middle finger. So you've created a little bit more space between where your hand was and a forward position. This brings your hands forward of your shoulders, curling your toes. And I want you to find, this is a nice way to go into it. It just creates a bit more space for when you're actually in the pose. You're going to lean forward and back. This is curling the toes under and leaning your body forward into your hands. This gives you an idea of the weight in your arms. And a little waking up for the back if this is your first pose of the day. And then from the next exhale, you lift your knees, lengthen up your legs, reset your feet so that you can see your feet hip width apart. And what I'm going to do is bend the knees and straighten the legs. I do that every time I find downward dog. It just gives the hamstrings a moment to recognize that they don't have to harden or grip up to find this pose. It also helps to relax your back a little bit as you lift and release from this movement. Once you feel ready to hang out in this pose, take a long breath out and feel a little bit of a firming of your arms against the bones. You feel a bit of strength there. Sinking back through your heels, and that'll wake up the back of the legs. Now as I press the heels down and the thighs back and the hips up, try not to clog up your ears or the sides of your neck with your arms. Sink down into the arms so you can create that strength in your arms and broaden the upper back. Feel a widening in the upper back. Anytime you need to, you can bend your knees just to soften out the back of the legs and create a bit more length in your lower back. Your breath is always through your nose here. Ujjayi breath, or a nice slow inhale that you can recognize and a long exhale that you can really sink into. Finding that connection between your hands and your shoulders, your hips and your heels, and your breath. Downward dog can be held for up to 30 seconds to a minute or a minute and a half if you have that strength and energy for it. Always finding the breath and always exhaling to lower your knees to the floor. Once down, separate your knees wide, bring your big toes together. Either use a block or a pillow to rest your head onto and your arms forward. Turning your palms up and wiggling out your fingers and relaxing through the shoulders. Revisit this pose as many times as you'd like. Add it to a sequence that you're familiar with, or just stay in child's pose and rest your back. Rest in child's pose, revisit downward dog, and add downward dog to a sequence that you're familiar with and comfortable practicing on your own. Here we are on pose number 5, Warrior 2. Step your feet apart, comfortably apart, about 2.5, 3 feet apart. And you're going to pivot onto your right heel, turning the toes to the front of the mat, or the side of the mat, and your foot flat to the floor. You're going to lift your left heel up just a little bit to pivot onto the ball of the toe and set that heel down. Make sure that that foot is flat on the floor and you're anchoring through your heel, and there's a nice lift or some intention into the arch in your toes. Your front foot, your right foot, is in line with the edge of the mat, so try to keep that foot really steady. This might be a pose all in itself for you, learning Warrior Two. So stay here and allow your pelvis to adjust to what feels comfortable for your legs. Don't force your hips one way or the other. Lifting your arms shoulder height, palms are down, fingers are spread, and a nice long breath here. Standing poses such as Warrior Two helps to steady the mind. It also has a calming effect. When you begin to exhale, turn your head to look over your right hand, over the middle finger, relaxing the shoulders. And then when ready, exhale to bend your right knee over the ankle. Now the intensity builds the longer you're in this pose. So be very mindful that you're not struggling with this at all. Your breathing will be a good gauge to know how you're doing. So let each breath be comfortable on the inhale and the exhale. In this position, also notice that you haven't buckled into the hips or the legs. You're pressing down through your feet and you're allowing the hips to widen or the pelvis to open and keeping that steady firmness in your legs. Your back left thigh might want to roll in just a little bit, and your left notice that your front right knee is over the ankle. The arch is lifted. And that your back left foot is firm to the floor with a little arch in that foot. One thing to also mention here is that you don't lean forward over your front right hand or leg. Bring yourself to a nice tall parallel line with the wall. When you feel ready, relax your arms, straighten your front leg, pivot, feet together, mountain pose, Tadasana, before trying the opposite side. We'll stabilize your position when you reach down, like a small box I'm using, or a chair. Chair is always a good way just to get yourself into it before going even further. Step apart with your feet like you did in Warrior Two, and we're pivoting onto the right heel, pointing to the toes to the front or the edge of the mat, and making sure that your knee is in line with the top of your foot and that the edge of your foot is aligned with the mat. Your pelvis is the focus here. So what you're going to do is not crank or push your hips back or up. Allow the pose to take its course as you move further and further into it. So the focus here is this nice tilting of the pelvis, and the top of the thigh, thigh where the hip crease is the point that you're going to flex into. You're going to bring that little length into your back by doing that. So we'll go into it together if you're ready. With your legs apart, your back heel is down, your arches of your feet are lifted, and you're strong in your legs. Bringing the arms up, looking over the middle finger or at the hand, top of the hand on the right side. And when you start to exhale, reach yourself over and you'll feel this nice sensation of length into your opposite side, the left side. Now, if you happen to be using a chair, your hand goes down onto the seat or onto the block if you're using that, and keep your left hand on your hip just to get involved with the weight distribution of this pose. If this pose is a challenge, please use the chair. Don't go right down to the floor. You may lose your balance. So when you're here, looking down or looking towards the front of the room and taking your left hand up and extending up. This is where you wake up your chest and open up the heart. So people tend to crowd into the shoulders or collapse into the arm or pull the arm back past the shoulder or the side of the body. Practice starting with your hand on your hip, your hand on the chair or block, and finding the energy in your legs. When you feel ready and that arm wants to lift, reach it up, and now the focus is more so on the chest, waking up the chest. Allow your head to stay neutral in line with your neck and your spine between the shoulders. Looking up is an option if you feel that you want to challenge your balance. When you feel ready to come out of this pose, release your hand to your hip, looking down towards the floor, and bend your front right knee forward just to take any tension that might be in the knee or the back of the leg out. And then as you inhale, lift yourself away from the floor and come back into your standing pose. Stepping your feet together, mountain pose. A variation I just showed you with triangle pose, I want to show you without the chair. Again, you can use a block or nothing at all or a small book. Again, finding yourself in that same wide-legged position with your feet apart. Pivoting onto your right heel, point the toes to the front of the mat or the side of the mat, and then lift up the heel of your back foot and drop it down. So that gives you a little bit of an angle so that you're not stressing into the knee or trying to overwork the pelvis. We'll go into this pose into its full, complete position. Arms come up. This is a breath in. As you exhale, reach over, like I showed you earlier, over the front leg and take your hand down to your shin. Right hand onto the leg, left hand onto the hip, and look down to the floor. Now, the reason I want to focus on this side a little bit more, or this variation rather, is that I don't want you to lock your knee. People tend to lock the knee to get further forward or down towards the floor. It's not about how far or how low you reach to the ground. So that's why I want to use a block, a book, or a little support system here. This way, you're taking the work out of the upper body and allowing your legs to stay strong and comfortable and not stressed out, so you can wake up the front of the body or the torso itself. Again, you can extend your arm. I always like to just look up at my hand just to notice that my arm hasn't fallen way back behind me, or is it way down here? If your arm can't straighten all the way up like this and it's an awkward position for your shoulder, keep your hand on your hip. Breathing through the nose. When ready, turn your nose towards the floor, bend your front knee, that's your right. Take your hand onto your thigh and slowly lift up. Adjust your feet. Come back to your standing pose. Relax in Tadasana. Here we are at tree pose, pose number 7, Vriksasana. Vriksasana, tree pose, is wonderful. It strengthens the arches and your outer thighs. It improves concentration. Start with your hands at your heart and your feet together. If this pose ever is a challenge and you need some more stability, use the wall, use the back of a chair to hold on to, and bring yourself into a nice tall position to begin. Taking your right foot out to the side and in. Just a moment of bringing the foot out and in gets the mind more familiar with the balance that you're learning and creating. Once you draw your foot in, point the knee out, pivoting at the hip, and pull the foot just up above the ankle. Keep your hands at your heart, unless you like to and able to lift your arms up over your head. Otherwise, hands at the heart. This pose is a nice way to start your morning, just to get yourself grounded, and centered. In this pose, some things to think about are the muscles around your hips, your legs, your core, and your glutes. Let there be a smoothness in your breath. Your eyes focus forward or down towards the floor on one object or one mark. If you are lifting your arms, when you feel steady in your leg, in your ankle, and through your breath, then can you lift up your arms, keeping the hands either together or wide apart. When you feel ready, hands to the heart, point your knee forward, stand in Tadasana with eyes closed before performing the opposite side. All right, here we are at bridge pose, Setu, Bandha, Sarvangasana. This is number 8. Wonderful pose as it reduces anxiety, improves digestion, and it's an energizing back bend. It also tones the kidneys and the adrenal glands. Gives a great stretch for the neck, opens up the chest and strengthens your ankles, your knees, and your back. Start, if you rather, use a block for your head. Prefer not to, because it brings the head up and you want to make sure your head is in a neutral line. But if you are going to use something for your head, use a small pillow that's not too heavy or too thick, or a thin blanket or a small towel behind your head and neck. Start by bringing yourself into this position with your feet on the floor. Rest down onto one elbow or arm, and then as you start to settle down, get inside the back. Sink all the way down and rest to the floor. Bring your feet in towards your hips so that your knees are over your ankles, your feet parallel, that's important, and that your feet are no wider than your hips. Making sure that you're feeling very comfortable in where your feet are and in relation to your knees. Try not to turn out your toes. Check that first. Make sure that your thighs parallel, your ankles, your knees, and your hips seem like they're in one straight line. Bringing your arms to the floor beside you. This pose can be done several times. You can hold it for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or longer if it feels good. Come out of it for double the time. So if it was a minute, you hang out for 2 minutes and then go back into it. Don't rush these poses. Find them slowly, enjoy them, come out of them, and then revisit them. So the first version of this pose is going to be with hands flat on the floor, thumbs tucked under your buttocks. I like that version of tucking the thumbs underneath the hips just to encourage the shoulders down and the arms into your body without moving them once you're up. Head is centered, feet are flat on the floor, and with a nice long breath in, tuck up your tailbone, lift up your pelvis, push through your feet, reset your head, and reach through your arms and fingers. As you find this pose, don't turn your head. Press down into your feet, feel the strength of your hamstrings, your glutes, and feel a nice awakening across the chest to the heart. To intensify this, you can very gently bring your hands together, interlace your hands, clasp your hands, and then begin to tuck in your elbows and slip under your shoulders. This creates a little bit more energy for your upper back and even more space across the front of the body and across the chest. Keep your arms as straight as you can bring them and really anchor into your feet. Feel your tailbone tucking up slightly so there's some energy in your pelvis. Breathing through the nose. Find that little stretch that you're getting into your neck, arms, tummy, and hips. If you need to, you gently roll out of this pose and then revisit it. Hold it for as long as you need to. If you're coming out now with me, you let go of your hands if you have them together. Press your fingers into the floor. Move your shoulders out, and then very carefully, don't just drop down, but gently release or roll your lower back into the floor carefully. So start from your thoracic, all the way down, lower back, hips, and tailbone. Once you find yourself completely relaxed into the floor, you can straighten one leg and then the other. Now, going a little bit further in bridge, if it's a pose that you like to hang out in, maybe rest in this position, Savasana, or once you come down, you can bring your knees in towards your chest and lift your head. So play around with that, have some fun in your bridge, repeat it as many times as you like, making sure that you're focusing on steadiness in your neck and head. You're not tightening up your mouth or your jaw, you're relaxing your throat so you can release tension through the neck and shoulders. This is a wonderful pose as it stretches the inner thighs. We're going to bring yourself into a forward bend, so it's calming effect, and create some space in your back. Start with your feet together and your knees apart. If you need, you can put pillows or blocks or anything that supports the outer thigh, the outer leg, like this. Holding onto either your ankles or onto the ends of your feet, your toes, like this. And lift up your torso. Feel very tall and long. You might already feel something in your back, in your hips, or even in your legs. Don't go beyond that. If this is comfortable, just hang out nice and tall. Taking a slow breath in and a long breath out. Settle your shoulders, relax your mouth. When you feel ready, exhale to slowly lean forward, bringing your hands either to the floor, again to the ends of your feet, your toes, and find as much length in your back. Now, it's going to be easy for you to want to push yourself forward. Don't. Rest your elbows to your inner legs, bow your head, allow the breath to be slow and smooth on the inhale and soft and long on the exhale. Identify all the sensations in the body. Relax your shoulders. Feel space through your back, through your spine, inner legs. As you inhale, bring yourself up, right, nice and tall, and bring your legs together. Straighten out your legs. If this was comfortable and you know you want to stay in that a little bit longer, you might want to use the chair that you used earlier for triangle pose or for tree pose out in front of you. And that way you have something just to hang on to so you don't feel like you're slowly creeping away from a comfort line or a comfort position. So play around with that, use the chair if you like, and enjoy. Okay, going on to our last pose, pose number 10, Savasana, corpse pose. Get yourself set up in Savasana with enough props that help you stay warm, comfortable, and relaxed. A pillow for your head, nothing too high, maybe just your yoga block, a blanket for your body, and if you like a little extra something for your head, a towel or a heavy blanket that you can place over your head, and I'll show you how to do that. Start by bending at your knees, aligning your head to where your block will come to, or your pillow, and then rest down onto one elbow, down onto the other, and Adjust yourself so that you're comfortable here first with your knees bent. When you feel ready, you'll slowly straighten one leg to the floor and reach through that one leg. Just extend from that whole side of the body, that straight leg, all the way down to the floor, just to relax into your lower back. And then as you exhale, opposite leg slides into the ground. Take your blanket, have it ready, place it over your body. Make sure that at least your upper legs, your tummy, and the upper chest can be covered so you feel warm. Not too warm, but comfortable. The blanket that I suggested earlier, you can take it, or a towel. This is quite a heavy blanket. It may not look heavy, but it's got some weight to it. And you can take it and place it just over the forehead, covering up the eyes, just like this. Taking out the light, it creates some weight and sort of a wrapping for your head, and bringing your arms back to the floor. So find this pose. Get yourself comfortable on the floor. Making sure that this position is really comfortable for your lower back. If you find that your lower back has tension, or you're not sure about the position for your hips, then just bend your knees, put your feet flat on the floor, or you can place a pillow or a rolled up blanket underneath the back of your thighs. This pose is really comfortable to always sink into after a yoga practice. You might find that you want to fall asleep. It's natural to do that, but try not to, because the benefit comes when you're alert, awake, and aware. We practice this by breathing. So first, find your physical body comfortable, just like you'd set yourself up to go to sleep at night. And take a long breath out. Exhale through your mouth. Feel that decompression of your lungs, your rib cage settling, your shoulders dropping, and your eyes and face are soft. Continue to notice and take easy breaths through your nose. I'll let you rest here, and please take your time. If you only have a few minutes, spend every moment in this pose. If you have all the time in the day to rest, maybe set a timer so that you notice you don't doze away. Pay attention to your breathing. Pay attention to the sensations of your body as it relaxes. And enjoy Savasana, this deep relaxation.